Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we really try to cut through all the noise out there.
Exactly.
We pull out the most important bits of knowledge. The mission, as always, is clear. Give you a sharp, focused understanding of what's happening globally, all in one deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on July 29th, 2025. We've got quite a range, from global conflicts, economic shifts, even some societal insights.
And, our goal isn't just listing facts, is it? It's about helping you really grasp the why.
Right, the context.
A context, yeah. Connecting the dots between these different events, understanding why they actually matter to you. This whole deep dive, it's designed to give you that clear, factual picture, but without, drowning you in information.
So you can form your own views.
Precisely. Well-informed perspectives. That's the aim.
Okay, then, let's dive in. First stop, global geopolitics. Some really complex currents moving there, and unfortunately, some persistent conflicts. We should probably start with the Middle East. There's some, significant diplomatic pressure making headlines.
Oh, that's definitely a key area today.
And, it's not often you see such a public split between close allies, is it? But reports are saying the UK Prime Minister directly pressured the US President about Gaza, the humanitarian situation.
That's right. And what's really striking is President Trump's own words.
Yeah, describing images of children, I think the quote was, real starvation stuff.
Which is incredibly stark language, especially when you put it against Prime Minister Netanyahu's earlier claims that there was, quote, no starvation.
Exactly. So this isn't just quiet diplomacy. It feels like a very public break, challenging the narrative head on. Could this signal something new? Maybe a more confrontational approach to humanitarian issues internationally.
I think that's the critical point here. It is a public fracturing. When a major ally, especially the U.S. president, uses language like that, contradicting a partner so directly, well, it creates immense diplomatic pressure. It really could reshape how these policy discussions happen moving forward. It suggests the reality on the ground. The humanitarian crisis has become so undeniable that, the usual political niceties are just falling away.
Stark realities overriding diplomatic language.
Okay.
And sort of related, France is also making moves. They're pushing hard for a two-state solution, urging the EU to act together on Israel.
Yes, another interesting diplomatic thread.
So what does that tell us about Europe maybe finding its own voice here, especially since both the U.S. and Israel decided to boycott that UN meeting France was pushing for?
Well, it certainly suggests Europe, or at least key players like France, are increasingly willing to carve out their own foreign policy path, even if it diverges from traditional allies. France's push, getting backing from other EU members, it really exposes a diplomatic split. And the U.S. and Israel boycotting, calling it ill-timed and unproductive, that just highlights the division.
It's not just a minor disagreement then.
No, it seems like a real effort to shift the global conversation. It shows a growing difference in how Western powers see the way forward in the region. And maybe, just maybe, it opens up space for different kinds of multilateral approaches down the line.
Interesting. Okay, that's the diplomacy side. But let's shift focus a bit to the Red Sea. The Houthi rebels seem to be escalating things significantly.
The very serious development there.
They've announced a major change in tactics, haven't they? They're now saying they'll target any merchant ship from any company if it does business with Israeli ports. Nationality doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, that's a huge broadening of their target list.
So what are the ripple effects here? It's more than just new risk, surely. What does this strategic shift really mean for global trade?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just a small expansion, it's a major tactical escalation. It introduces a whole new level of, systemic uncertainty.
So?
By saying the flag on the ship doesn't offer protection anymore, the Houthis are forcing basically every shipping company worldwide to scrutinize their entire supply chain. If any part of their business touches Israeli ports, even indirectly,
They become a potential target.
exactly. They're essentially weaponizing economic connections. It creates this profound risk. Companies might be forced into a choice, trade with Israel or safe passage through a vital waterway.
Which could further snarl up global supply chains.
Definitely. And probably drive up insurance costs, maybe significantly. It's a really disruptive move.
Okay. And while that's escalating, other conflicts are, sadly, continuing to take a heavy toll on civilians. Let's look at Ukraine.
Yes, the airstrikes continue there.
Reports this morning of an attack on Kiev, 5 people wounded. And just yesterday, a really tragic incident in the Sumy region. A Russian drone hit a bus it was evacuating civilians.
Awful. How many?
39 civilians on board. 3 were killed, 19 wounded. It's just a constant sobering reminder of the human cost of this ongoing war.
Absolutely horrific.
And then shifting continents to Sudan. The situation there seems to be deepening. The Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, and their allies, they've announced they're forming a rival government structure in Darfur.
A 15-member presidential council, I believe?
That's right, a parallel government. What does this signify for Sudan? We're already talking about a 27-month civil war, a worsening famine.
It's a profound escalation. Creating a rival government isn't just symbolic, it formalizes the political split. It fundamentally challenges the existing state's authority.
Making peace even harder.
Immensely harder. Now you have two competing claims to legitimacy. Any kind of unified peace process just became vastly more complicated, and you have to assume this will worsen the humanitarian crisis.
Yeah.
By fragmenting control even further, making aid delivery potentially more difficult, more dangerous, it's likely to push millions already suffering deeper into famine and hardship.
A really bleak outlook. And just briefly, staying with conflict zones, news from Kashmir, Indian forces had a gunfight in the Dachigam forest area.
Resulting in casualties.
Yes. 3 suspected militants were killed. India's home minister linked them to an attack back in April. So it's an update on the ongoing tensions in that very volatile region.
You know, when you connect these different hotspots, Ukraine, Sudan, Kashmir, even though the contexts are so different, it paints this stark picture of just how complex and interconnected global security challenges are. And in almost every case, it highlights the incredible pressure and suffering of civilian populations caught in the middle.
And the persistent struggle for stability.
Exactly. These stories might fade from the headlines sometimes, but the human cost is tragically real right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, amidst all that heavy news, we do actually have a moment of positive development, a de-escalation, which feels rare these days.
Oh, good news is welcome.
Thailand and Cambodia. They've agreed to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in their border conflict. This followed talks in Malaysia. And this fighting, it had already displaced over 200,000 people.
Wow, that many. So a ceasefire is hugely significant.
Yes. And what makes it particularly interesting is who was at the talks. Both the U.S. and Chinese ambassadors were present.
That is noteworthy. U.S. and China in the same room facilitating peace.
Seems like it. What does that signal?
Well, it's genuinely positive. It suggests a shared international interest, despite their broader rivalries, in preventing this specific conflict from spiraling.
Right, preventing regional instability.
Precisely. They understood this could destabilize a key trade region, displace even more people. It's a rare but welcome example of diplomacy, even between competing powers, achieving a concrete, positive result, averting a wider crisis.
Good to hear. Okay, let's transition now. Moving into the world of economics, trade, development, and focusing on how these big global policies actually impact people on the ground.
Always crucial to connect policy to real-world effects.
And if you've been following trade discussions, this is where it gets really interesting, especially thinking about, your own budget.
Tariffs.
You guessed it. A new Yale Budget Lab report just came out, quantifying the impact of new U.S. tariffs. And the numbers. Well, they're pretty striking.
What did they find?
American consumers are apparently facing the highest tariff rate since 1934. That's quite a historical comparison.
Since the Great Depression era, basically. Wow.
And the study projects an average income loss for American households of about $2,400 in 2025.
$2,400. That's a significant hit for the average family.
It is. And the report talks about this sectoral trade-off. Basically, any expected gains in manufacturing jobs or output, they seem to be more than wiped out by losses in other sectors, like construction and agriculture.
So robbing Peter to pay Paul, essentially. Or maybe robbing Peter and Paul.
Seems like it, according to this study. It really breaks down the concrete costs of these tariffs, shows how complex those economic ripple effects are. It's not a simple picture.
No, and that Yale study is important because it tries to quantify those costs. Costs that often get hidden, but consumers end up paying. It shows tariffs can act like a regressive tax, hitting everyone, but maybe lower-income households harder.
And that trade-off you mentioned.
Yeah, the sectoral trade-off is key. It suggests the benefits claimed for one industry might be directly canceled out or even outweighed by damage elsewhere in the economy. A zero-sum game or possibly even negative sum overall. It really highlights the tough balancing act for governments trying to set economic policy.
Absolutely. And speaking of those impacts, let's look at Lesotho, the small, landlocked kingdom in Africa. Its economy is reportedly facing a really severe downturn.
How bad is it?
Projected growth is plummeting. It was expected to be 2.4% in 2024, but now the projection for 2025 is just 1.1%.
That's a dramatic drop. What's causing it?
It seems to be a mix of factors: high unemployment, cuts in international aid. But significantly, the report also points to the impact of U.S. trade tariffs.
Ah, so those external shocks again.
Exactly. It's a really stark example of how vulnerable smaller developing nations can be to decisions made thousands of miles away.
And linking Lesotho's struggles directly to those tariffs, it's more than just a statistic, isn't it? It's a warning sign. It shows how trade wars, even if they feel distant, can unravel the stability of fragile economies.
Yeah.
It underlines the immense leverage major economies have, sometimes unintentionally, over smaller, often aid-dependent nations. It really raises an important question. Are we fully considering the disproportionate impact of our trade policies on those least able to handle them?
A crucial question indeed. Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom on the economic front. We're also seeing some innovation. Brazil, for instance, seems to be pioneering a different kind of economic model, especially around climate finance.
Oh yes, the BNDES initiative.
That's the one. Brazil's State Development Bank, BNDES. They're actively trying to attract global investors for a nearly $4 billion climate fund.
And they're using this interesting blended finance approach.
Exactly. That's what's innovative. Using public seed money to basically de-risk the investment and attract much larger sums of private capital. How significant could this model be?
Potentially very significant. It could be a real game changer, actually. It tackles one of the biggest hurdles in climate finance. How do you bridge the gap between government promises and getting private money flowing?
Right.
By using public funds to absorb some of the initial risk, BNDES is making these green projects much more attractive to private investors. It creates this powerful magnet effect.
And it could be copied elsewhere.
That's the hope. It could become a replicable blueprint for other emerging economies that are struggling to fund their own green transitions. It shows how public sector leadership can really catalyze large-scale private investment for climate action. A very positive development to watch.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift gears again. Now we'll look inwards, focusing on some domestic issues, social trends, policy challenges playing out within different countries, starting with a really tragic event in a major city. In Midtown Manhattan, there was a shooting incident. 4 people were killed, including an NYPD officer. The suspect also died.
Just terrible news.
Absolutely. And an incident like this kind of urban violence, it obviously raises huge security concerns, especially in a global financial center like Midtown. Beyond the immediate tragedy, what broader issues does this bring up for a city like New York?
Well, an event like that resonates far beyond the victims, sadly. It shines a harsh light on, well, urban violence, the ongoing challenge of gun control in big cities, but also the unique pressures on police. It forces questions about public safety in really dense urban environments, the psychological impact on the community. It inevitably forces a reevaluation of security in public spaces and feeds into that larger, difficult societal debate about firearms access.
A lot to unpack there. Okay, moving south to Venezuela. The ruling party, the PSUV, achieved what's being called a sweeping victory in recent municipal elections.
The United Socialist Party, yes.
But this victory came after the main opposition coalition decided to boycott the elections.
Right, which is key context.
So what does this sweeping victory actually mean for President Maduro's government? Does it really consolidate his control?
On paper, yes, it looks like consolidated control. But the boycott really undermines the legitimacy of that victory, doesn't it? It tells us more about the state of Venezuelan democracy, or lack thereof, than about a genuine popular mandate.
So the consequence is?
The consequence is further consolidation of Maduro's control over local levers of power budgets, services, administration. It effectively closes off avenues for political opposition at the local level. It deepens the political polarization and shrinks the already limited democratic space even further. Makes it harder for any real alternative to gain traction.
Got it. Now, shifting across the globe again to Australia, there's a really alarming report out about a surge in Islamophobia.
Yes, I saw that. The numbers are staggering.
A 1,300% increase in reported Islamophobic incidents since October 2023. That's just an incredible jump.
1,300%. It's hard to even comprehend.
And the report says women and girls make up 75% of the victims. The research explicitly links this rise to the Gaza war, and it highlights how political rhetoric can either fuel or dampen these kinds of incidents.
It's deeply troubling. It shows just how quickly events happening far away can fracture social cohesion right at home.
Yeah.
And a 1,300% rise isn't just a blip. It signals a rapid, dangerous breakdown in social harmony and safety for a specific community. The fact that women and girls are so disproportionately targeted is particularly awful.
And the link to political rhetoric.
It's critical. It underscores how words used by public figures, especially around highly emotional international events, can have real-world consequences domestically. They can create an environment where prejudice boils over into discrimination, even violence. It really forces us to think about the responsibility that comes with public discourse.
A powerful reminder. Okay, still thinking about Australia, but shifting to the digital world. YouTube is apparently lobbying hard against an upcoming social media ban for kids under 16.
Ah, the youth safety laws debate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
YouTube's argument is basically, we're a video sharing service, not social media, so we should be exempt.
Trying to draw a fine line there.
But this comes after Australia's e-safety commissioner recommended reversing YouTube's initial exemption, citing research on kids being exposed to harmful content on the platform.
Right.
What does this whole episode tell us about, tech power versus child safety efforts?
It's a classic example, really. The ongoing push and pull between massive tech platforms and regulators trying to protect citizens, especially vulnerable ones like children.
Yeah.
YouTube's argument about not being social media highlights how difficult it is to even define these platforms for regulatory purposes, especially as they keep evolving. But the e-safety commissioner pushing back based on evidence of harm, that shows the growing pressure on governments to prioritize child safety over corporate definitions or business models.
It's a real clash.
It is a clash between tech's influence and legitimate societal concerns, forcing regulators into this constant game of catch-up.
Okay, also in that wider region, news from Indonesia. Authorities busted a human trafficking ring in Mataram.
Oh, what were they doing?
They arrested 10 Bangladeshi nationals who were allegedly running a network smuggling other Bangladeshis, 6 of them, to Australia by boat.
Trying to get around Australia's border policies.
Exactly. It underscores the ongoing attempts to breach Australia's Operation Sovereign Borders policy, the one designed to stop asylum seekers arriving by sea. And it's a reminder of the global fight against human trafficking.
It really is a grim reminder of these persistent, often hidden smuggling networks. It shows the complex routes they use and the lengths people will go to, driven by desperation or inequality, putting themselves in incredible danger. And it highlights just how difficult it is for authorities to dismantle these sophisticated transnational criminal operations.
Very true. And just one more brief item on public safety, this time from Bangkok. A shooting at a busy market there.
Oh no, what happened?
6 people died in what police believe was a murder-suicide. It's caused widespread shock, obviously, and they're still investigating the motive. Just another reminder of public safety concerns, even in bustling cities.
Tragic. Looking back at this whole segment, the violence in New York, the politics in Venezuela, social tensions in Australia, the tech regulation battles, trafficking, the Bangkok incident.
It's a real mix.
It is. But these domestic issues, varied as they are, they often reflect these bigger, broader challenges, don't they? Challenges of governance, keeping communities cohesive, dealing with the impact of global information, global events.
Yeah, pieces of a larger puzzle.
Exactly. How societies grapple with all these pressures, internal and external, constantly adapting.
All right. Well, after navigating all those complex, often difficult global currents, let's end on something different, something potentially positive and actionable for you, the listener.
A good way to wrap up.
Something maybe more within your own control, perhaps speaking to personal resilience.
Okay, what is it?
It's about walking. A new study came out with some really interesting findings about walking faster.
Faster walking. Tell me more.
It found that older adults can actually significantly improve their physical abilities and even slow down the physical aging process just by increasing their walking pace slightly. We're talking about adding only about 14 steps per minute.
Just 14 steps. That doesn't sound like much.
Exactly. It's not about suddenly running marathons. It's presented as a simple, really low-cost intervention, something highly actionable.
A practical tool.
Yeah, a powerful public health tool, especially for aging populations, to help maintain independence longer.
Yeah.
So for you listening, it means there's a very accessible way to potentially proactively manage your long-term health.
That's actually quite compelling. It really highlights how small, consistent changes can potentially have quite profound long-term benefits for health, for quality of life.
Right.
Yeah. And in a world that feels increasingly complex, maybe focusing on these accessible, low-cost, actionable strategies for personal well-being it becomes even more important, you know? It's a nice reminder that resilience, whether we're talking personal or societal, it's often built on that kind of consistent, mindful effort. Simple things done regularly.
What a journey we've taken today in this deep dive. We've really spanned the globe, haven't we? From those intricate diplomatic shifts and conflict updates.
To the economic impacts, the tariffs, the climate finance.
Right, and then those domestic issues, social trends, and finally, even some actionable advice on well-being. We genuinely hope this focused approach, this deep dive, has helped you cut through the noise and gain some valuable insights efficiently from the sources you provided.
And maybe this raises a final thought, an important question for you to consider. How does understanding all these different threads, the global, the local, the economic, the social, how does weaving them together help you build a richer, more nuanced picture of the world?
Yeah, seeing the connections.
Exactly. Ultimately, our aim is always to empower you, to help you form your own informed opinions based on the facts, and to see those connections that really shape this interconnected world we live in.
Well said. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening with us today. We really hope we've added some value to how you stay informed.
Thanks for joining us.
Follow us on Spotify to listen to this podcast every morning at 8 a.m.